Waiters and waitresses, what are some signs you are serving a first date? The biggest sign is when they order something the other doesn't expect them to get. I'll have a Guinness. Oh, you like Guinness? So, what do you like to do in your free time? When they come in and ask for tables separately, then sit across the restaurant from each other for 10 minutes before realizing the other was there. It was a blind date. Weird lulls in the conversation that consists of information friends' partners should already know, like how many siblings they have, desert island movies, etc. Edit. What, my first guild ever? This is delightful. One time I had a couple who were talking about what they had been doing the previous summer, indicating that they didn't know each other until recently. They ordered a bottle of $100 red wine, and when I came back with the bottle, the guy had started telling a gross story about how he was so hungover on vacation that his friends had to carry him inside the airport, where he had puked multiple times on various people, things etc. Before she even finished her first glass of wine, the girl left the restaurant and the guy stayed and drank the whole thing himself without ordering any food. The worst part was when he also chugged down her half-finished glass before he left as well. This couple were on a first date, and every time he went to the toilet, she was swiping on Tinder. Ruthless. When they come and dress nice, at a Chili's. Staying way beyond being done with their meal and drinks, usually because they don't want to try to figure out if they're meant to be going home together or not. When I was on my first date nearly 5 years ago with my now fiance registered sign, we went to this nice Italian place, has drinks, salad, entree, definitely indulging cause no first date. I wanted to have a good time with this girl, and before we even asked for the check, a fine looking plate of cake came out and the waitress said that our bill was covered by someone who wants to remain anonymous. All she would tell me is that the person said we were looking like we were having a good time and made them smile. I gotta tell you, I was blown away by this act of kindness, and I also think that played a good role in me snagging a second date with the love of my life. We're still trying to pay the act forward and find an obvious first date out at a restaurant. One of these days we will. But yeah, didn't really answer your question. But some patron noticed us and ended up paying a hefty bill on our behalf. Edit. Fiance registered signee. Awkwardness when asked if they want to split or one of them pay for both. Whoa. Reading the comments on this thread, I've realized all my dates ever have been first dates. On my first date with my now wife, our waiter figured it out for us. We had been acquaintances for years through mutual friends, and when we agreed to grab dinner that night, neither of us were sure if the other was in it for a date or just dinner with an acquaintance friend. I guess we were being just awkward and giggly enough that our waiter, who had known us separately as regulars at this restaurant, blurted out, "Oh man, are you guys on a date?" We both just started laughing nervously while looking at each other and flop sweating. The waiter felt the awkwardness multiply and backed away like Homer Simpson into a hedge. 9 years later, when married, the restaurant went out of business, and I'm still not sure if it was a date or not. Edit. Spelling is hard. Edit 2. Thanks for the silver. I will treasure it awkwardly. Not sure if it was meant for me or not. Edit 3. I've been assured the gold intentional. Thanks for the clarity, as I remain just as oblivious today. They actually talk to each other. I'm not a waiter anymore, but one time I was at a place and the waiter came over when my girlfriend went to the toilet. He said how he thought things were going well, and asked if this was our first or second date. We had literally been together over 5 years at that point, haha. So yeah, you guys aren't always right. Not a server, but a former barback, and one of my favorite things to do while working is to eavesdrop and try to figure out what the deal is between people having meals together. Here are some things that tell me that it is a first, or possibly second, date. What do your parents do? How many siblings do you have? What do you do for work? A surprising number of people, mostly male patrons where I work, no idea why, will ramble on about their past relationships. I've learned to use this as an indicator that they are on a first or second date. I notice it so frequently that I've been tempted to tell them to stop. If the couple gets quiet after disagreeing about something trivial like an opinion of a certain band or activity, uncomfortably long pauses followed by something like, "It's been so cold out lately." Honestly can't usually tell. I have made it awkward before by saying "You guys are so cute, how long have you been together before?" to get the response of "They are on their first date." Whoops. Not a waitress, but someone assumed me and my BF of 7 years were on a first Tinder date. I could hear them say it from the table next to us. So, I reached over, took huge sips from his drink and ate off his plate. Just for its and giggles. I texted him about what and why I was doing this and he laughed. Grabbed my drink and said, "So where are you from?" ABD sat my drink back down in front of me. Good times. Till, my wife and I are always on a first date. That giddy little laugh at jokes that aren't funny. The look of new love. The awkward trying to get close but shyness overpowers and maintains a distance. Also had a few women straight up tell me, so I'd help get them out of it. One woman paid me $50 to spill a drink on her, so she'd have to leave. Lol. Edit. More info. Yes, I did spill the drink on her. When he was in the bathroom she prompted me for help. It was an iced tea. I had zero intention of charging Get to help her. When I did it, the guy went nuts on me. Up until then he seemed like a nice guy. He was terrifying. Had me in tears. She left. He paid after more yelling and complaining to my manager, who was in on it, then left. She returned and tipped me the $50. Her phone was lit up with messages from him. He was quite aggressive. Totally dodged a bullet there. We have since become friends. She always brings first dates to my work and we have a code worked out now. Although she's currently dating a good friend of mine. They are super cute together. We also have a note in the woman's room that explains if you order XXXX drink, changes regularly, we will help you leave without causing a scene. We have a similar note in the men's room, with completely different appetizer instead of drink. Yes, men need an out now and then too. Thanks for all the upvotes. Oh circumflexodiaresis are cute. When he leaves before the food he ordered is made, I brought it out and she asked for the bill because he left. Brutal experience. She had to pay for his drinks and food. She didn't even want to pack his dinner up to eat later. This was not a cheap restaurant but the tables were close together so it must have been mortifying. I gave her the employee discount. Usually overheard conversation or under the table hand jobs. Not a waiter, but I work at Starbucks. I can tell when a guy and girl meet. Shake hands in front of the register. They order together. The guy pays. Then they sit together talking, laughing in the cafe for the next couple hours. Not sure why they're meeting at the register, but it happens a lot. If I was meeting a girl at Starbucks for a first date, I'd meet at the door or a table and then go up and order together. Edit. Fun follow up. One location I worked at a few years back was also a frequent date spot. When we closed at 10 PM, sometimes couples would finish up their dates in their cars in our parking lot and still be there when we left about a half hour later. I know. Classy. One co-worker I frequently closed with owned a former police car and sometimes we'd have fun pulling up behind these amorous stragglers and turning the spotlight on the car. Instant hilarity. You can see fear in the guy's eyes. Till just how much waiters listen to their customers' conversations. When I worked as one I swear I never heard a damn thing my tables were saying. I once waited an obvious first date where the guy was very shy and nervous. The girl that was with him was absolutely stunning. He kept his hands under the table and fumbled them around a lot. Whenever I came to the table they visibly loosened up so I talked to them for a minute and maybe told a joke or something because they seemed to enjoy it. I hope my boy got laid that night because I tried my best. They arrive separately and confirm that the other person is the one they are supposed to be on the date with. It's also really obvious from someone's reaction if the other person doesn't look like their profile picture. Pay attention to body language. At first they are probably mirroring each other. A couple who is comfortable together and have been together will sit however they want. A first date will usually sit up, like at attention. If it's going well, they might lean in towards each other. If it's not, they will likely put their hands in their lap. If it's bad, look for arms crossed or drinks thrown. Edit. There are no absolutes. leaning in and smiling, arms crossed and scowling. I guess when you're observing a table from a distance you see the body language and begin to evaluate. It's not like I hover over tables scanning facial tics and expressions. You can get a sense through eavesdropping too, but good luck isolating conversations on a busy Friday night. We'll have separate bills please. If it's a Mexican restaurant and nobody is devouring the free chips and salsa. They take forever to order because they haven't even looked at the menus, even though they have been sitting at the table for 30 minutes. When they ask what that big raisin is doing in their food, it's a dead giveaway that is their first date. When girls are playing with their hair a lot, if I find tons of hair on the seat I know they were nervously playing with their hair. Or if they need their water refilled for the 3rd time and the appetizers haven't even arrived yet. I do the same things when I'm nervous. Edit. Obviously not everybody WHO does these things is on a date. I don't give a shit if you drink a lot of water or shed a lot. I just answered the question. Not too many first dates at my dining room. I work at a retirement home. Served a couple the other day. The boys' parents came in and we had their tables next to each other by coincidence. Everyone had a good laugh and they moved tables. Well, so this happened last week. Had a couple and they were fine. I could tell they didn't want me around for longer than what was necessary, so I gave them their space. It was close to closing time but I had a bunch of stuff to do, so I just let them gab. 2 girls come in and are greeted by my coworker. Tell her that they are this girl's friend and just want to see what the guy looks like. She seats them within a shot but they are disguised with some bull caps and whatnot. They seem sketchy when I go up to them and mention that the guy looks like Jeffrey Dahmer, and proceed to rag on him before I even ask them what they want. I walk right over to the couple and ask if they know these people. The girls bolt out the door. As they go past the window outside they are yelling at the girl. Slut, whore, you name it. She goes off to the bathroom crying and he asks for the check. Turned out to be his ex and her friend who had been stalking him for 2 months. He also mentioned that this had happened before and he thought he was in the clear after he stopped using social media. He did look kinda like Jeffrey Dahmer though. Big tip from the guy. Despite you not doing anything exceptional service wise. Happened to me several times lol. Side story, a few years after I graduated high school I was serving one of the bullies from my class. I could tell he was on a first date, and when he tried to pay with a card, I told him his card was denied. He had a second card and I decided to run it so his date wouldn't have to pay. I have a first time date tomorrow and I'm eagerly hoping for one of those under the table hand jobs everyone keeps raving on about. In my experience, which is mostly casual dining, one of them turns up a half hour early and has a nerve calming drink before the other gets there. It's fun watching a couple start to open up their body language when they've been chatting a while. Less fun to watch one of them cower away while the other just doesn't stop talking at them. I'm a bartender. Overhearing people's awkward first dates is one of those things that never stops being hilarious. He keeps telling the same military story over and over again while vaping. Same side sitters. Nothing funnier or more awkward than this annoying practice. Who is comfortable sitting next to someone with no one in front of you? Stop it. Not a waiter or a waitress, but I could definitely imagine if one of them tells you it's their first date, it would be a sign you're serving a first date. Men on a first date tend to tip generously. They look a teeny bit relieved every time you disturb them until things change. Then, if it's going well, you may as well have disappeared. If it's going badly, you're either surrogate friend, fallout shelter, or worst enemy. That part is actually more fun. You can usually tell by attitude toward one another or when they approach the host stand or how they order their food. You can always tell when you're getting ready to drop the bill and asking them if they're splitting the check or not. I'm not a waitress, but I hope that somehow the hostess waiter that served my first date with my husband reads this and reminisces at my awkwardness. I met my husband on OkCupid. We talked for a few days and I'd seen a few pictures, but it's hard to be sure what someone will look like in person. We were supposed to meet at a restaurant that's like a small step up from Chili's. So he texts me that he got there first and had been seated already. Awkward. But okay. I walk in and stammer to the waitress something about meeting a date that had already been seated. She told me I could go look for him. I then awkwardly stammered about how I'd never actually met him and didn't know exactly who I was looking for. She laughed and pointed me in the direction of someone who had been seated waiting on a date. Looks a bit like the pictures, but cuter actually. I get to the table and make eye contact and he's like, "Poodle mama," and I'm like, "Hey, yeah, that's me." And we shook hands. It was awkward. Found out he thought there was a wait, so he put us on the list, but then they did have a table for two, so they made him sit. That was the reason for that awkwardness. So we wound up talking for 3 hours until they were closing. It was a great date. Now we've been married almost 2 years. We still joke about the first time we shook hands. Talking about the menu way I too in detail to fill silences, or using it to make conversation. I think I'll get mashed potatoes as my side. Tell me about your view on mashed potatoes. Do former waiters count? Over happy reactions and fake smiles. When the guy gets something cheap and looks at the girl with hopeful eyes. If it's a hetero couple, 7 times out of 10 if she's ordering a salad, it's a first or second date. Ladies, I don't know why you do this, but stop. Eat real food. If he can't handle you being a real human who eats real food, then go find another one. Plenty of men don't give a shit. Disclaimer, I see you coming to tell me you order salads because you're nervous and not very hungry. That's fine. But I, too, am a woman. And know many a woman to hide her eating habits in front of first dates. I promise as long as you aren't eating raw ground beef with your hands it doesn't matter. These responses are pretty hilarious. Half are waiters convinced they know what a first date looks like, and the other half are people in long relationships whose waiters were convinced they were on a first date. Excellent thread. Confirmed waiters have no clue. They don't look at their phones as often, or will immediately after one leaves for the restroom, etc. It's usually about the banter. First date conversations usually involve a lot of "where are you from? What do you do? What's your family like?" etc. Physically, they have no connection yet. They're very different from new couple who are all over each other or longer term couples who are just comfortable with each other. The way they will talk about the food always indicates if they have just met. They order safe date things, apps that can be shared without too much touching serving. Women default to salads almost always, although that's true in general. I worked in sushi for a while, and while the food is communal, there's a lot of trepidation around using chopsticks, not touching the other's PCTC. My favorite are the first dates between a white guy and Asian woman. The assumption she knows everything about sushi but she's Vietnamese is hilarious to see. Also, I also worked in a place men would bring their sugar babies, and that's pretty easy to spot too, and totally different. When I greet the table and ask if they'd like drinks or appetizers and the guy says, "So, do you like mozzarella sticks?" Person walks in alone, says they're waiting for one more person who should be here any minute. Handshake or awkward hug when other person walks in, followed by apologies for being late. Not ready to order because they're too busy talking, not looking at the menu. Fine by me. Conversation generally seems to be revolving around very basic info. What do you do for work? Did you grow up around here? Not going crazy on the drinks. Separate checks. Not always, but it is a lot more common now. As soon as both get up and leave, one turns right back around and comes and sits at the bar to debrief the bartender on their awful and awkward Tinder date. They are overly polite with each other. Till I've been missing out on a lot of hand jobs.